Thanks very much. So I'm actually probably one of the few people that's not going to be dwelling explicitly on freemium, and you'll see the rare word premium up there on the slide. I will be talking a little bit about freemium at the end and some of our early successes there. But really the nature of this talk is talking about the Dash franchise. I'm going to step you through the history of it. I'm going to provide you a lot of data. There's a lot of data in this presentation that was done in a very recent research study that we did with Frank Maggot Associates, who's a great partner of ours, and we do a lot of research with them. And so there's some proprietary data, very recent, very new, not stuff pulled off the internet that I hope you find valuable. I'm also going to give you a lot of our data. I'm going to tell you our DAU, I'm going to tell you our MAU, I'm going to tell you our retention numbers, so you're actually going to get that data, which hopefully will be helpful to you in terms of helping you in shaping your own business. And then I'll sort of step you through how we built up the Dash franchise, and then I'll finish it out and talk a little bit about what we're going to do next. So PlayFirst, as you guys probably well know, creates really popular best-selling games. We're best known for our Dash franchise, which are considered time management games, but we also created a lot of hidden object games, arcade games, simulation games. The little number in the bottom right of these games is the number that game reached in the casual ranking charts. So hit after hit, month after month, we've cranked out over the past 6 years some really popular games. Diner Dash in particular is our best known franchise, our best known brand. So originally launched in 2004. To date, it's seen over 550 million downloads across the various platforms. You guys all know Flo. She's a spunky can-do waitress. And what's unique about this franchise, and really unique about PlayFirst, is while I think a lot of other gaming companies are waking up to the reality of the fact that there's a lot of female gamers out there, we've been working with them for 6 years. 80% of our audience is female players for Dash. And as a result, when we go out and talk to gamers at large, not just core gamers, but you talk to people who play games, Diner Dash indexes up there with some of the biggest brands in gaming in terms of popularity because we have this very loyal fan base that is up until recently has been somewhat unique in being female. So obviously, I'm going to focus here specifically on mobile and specifically on iOS, which is where our initial focus has been with the Dash franchise. So here's the recent research that I was referring to, and this is contrasting the behavior of smartphone owners versus cell phone owners, traditional cell phone owners, and the way they consume content. And really the data point that I want to highlight is 45% of the people surveyed are actually playing games on their phone. So you can look at that as a fantastic improvement over 13% on the original feature phone days. And I also look at that as a huge opportunity, which means 55% of people who have these devices are not yet playing games on them. So even as the smartphone platforms continue to grow, even the existing owners of smartphones who aren't yet playing games are a huge growth opportunity for the business moving forward. And when we look at the smartphone gamer demographics, we actually over-index female. So I don't know if you can find another platform that can sort of boast this, and this bodes very well for us and our franchises. But the fact that gamers on smartphones skew slightly female and are in that sort of sweet 12 to 24 demo, I think is a really unique opportunity. And one of the things that PlayFirst does a lot, and I would really encourage you guys to do this if you're not already, is if you think you're targeting the female gamer and you haven't personally actively talked to 20 female gamers, you don't know what you're doing. You actually need to go out and get panels of people together, get women in a room and talk to them about how they play, why they play. And it's very, very interesting. I mean, when we get these women together and talk to them, we say, are you a gamer? No, absolutely not. How many games do you have on your smartphone right now? About 20. How often do you play them? Every single day. Are you a gamer? No. So these women do not self-identify as gamers. They're very, very active, very, very loyal, and in many respects, just a huge opportunity going forward. And to be honest, a big part of the reason why Dash has been so successful on iOS to date. Now, when we look at smartphone platform comparison to other platforms that people are currently playing games on, so this is particularly interesting. Of people who currently own a smartphone, it's their most frequently used platform for gaming, over and above consoles. And I personally experienced this transition about 2 years ago when I found myself sitting on my couch playing my iPhone games in front of a giant TV and every single console known to mankind hooked up to a surround sound system that had dust all over it. So I think what we're seeing here is a big shift in terms of how people are not only people are using their smartphones for gaming, but it's actually taking precedent now and becoming more frequently used than all the other platforms that are available to gamers. And that's not to say they're not still playing console games. That's not to say that console games are going to die or go away. But the instant accessibility of these devices, the ability to really quickly pull it out of your pocket and jump into it, I think is really causing a lot of engagement and a lot of really frequent play. So now I'm going to transition and talk a little bit about Dash on iOS. We're now, and this chart's a little bit dated, we're now over 15 million installs of our officially reported by Apple installs of Dash on iOS. And I'm just going to talk you through the timeline there. So Diner Dash, originally released in September of 2008, back when there were 600 games in the App Store. Charged $9.99 for it. Those were the good old days. It came out, it was pretty rocking. It was a direct port. It had black bars on the side of the screen because we hadn't even bothered to change the aspect ratio from 800 by 600 to go to the phone. And it was a direct port. It was a direct port of a hit franchise, and it did okay. We sort of did the same thing with Wedding Dash a little while later. And this is when the App Store really started to take off, and it became very apparent to us that a port your games from other platforms to iOS strategy was going to be a flawed one and a failed one. So we regrouped, and this is the point at which we really focused the team internally on building native games, and not only building new native games going forward, but going back and fixing Diner Dash and Wedding Dash and making them very native to the platform. So Cooking Dash, which launched towards the end of 2009, was a big hit for us, went up to #2 overall on the charts, received a lot of Apple support because we had made it very native to the platform. Then we launched Diner Dash Grilling Green on the iPad. It was an iPad launch title. On the first day that everyone got their iPads, if you launched the App Store, the first featured game in the App Store by Apple was Diner Dash Grilling Green. And the reason for that was that we had a crazy 42-day development sprint where we made this game from scratch for the iPad, without having a device, of course, thanks. Fingers crossed, submitted it to Apple the day before the App Store went live, and it was a huge hit for us. And it supported both orientations of the iPad. It had gestures, it had multi-touch, it had 2-player mode. And this was, again, a great lesson learned for us that if you build a game that's very specific to the platform and get people excited about their hardware, you will have a hit franchise on your hands. And that's arguably, I think, more important than your brand going in. There are plenty of brands in the App Store right now, huge brands that struggle to remain in the top 200 charts because their games are actually not native games. It's something ported over from some other platform, or it's something that really wasn't made for the device. Hotel Dash was our big focus towards the end of 2010. Recently, we've done Soap Opera Dash, Cooking Dash Thrills and Spills on the iPad, and Barking Dash most recently. So it's not a ton of games, right? You think of Play First, you think, well, you guys have like 17 Dash games. What's the holdup? What's been taking you so long? Why only this number of games over a 2.5-year stretch? And the reason for that is that because every single one of the games you see up here is a live game. It's in ongoing development. It's never done. We're continuing to develop it, improve it, and work on it, very much as you would think of over on the freemium side of the fence as the way to operate a game. And I think that means that each one of these games, we want all of these games to be in the top 200. We don't want to just launch a new one and then 3 months later launch another one, or a month later and basically cycle through our franchise. We want all of these games to be successful, and the reason for that is because we want to really retain that active user base. And we're doing pretty well at it. So this is just a random sampling. I took this when I made this presentation. This is from April 15th of this year through the end of June. Just took a snapshot of the App Store, looked at how Diner Dash, Wedding Dash, Hotel Dash, and Cooking Dash rank amongst the top grossing games that are paid. So I sort of trimmed out the freemium stuff. And they're all very consistently top 100, and as recently as the end of June, they were all in or around the top 50 grossing in the App Store. And that's very, very unique for a franchise of games, and certainly something that we're very proud of. And it also, the games have a lot of worldwide appeal. So if you look at where these games have peaked, Diner Dash has been #1 in 17 countries, and it's been in the top 5 in 47 countries. And these are not like strange countries that you haven't heard of, but they are actually like US, China, like major markets. And to be honest, one of the reasons why we're able to retain these rankings is because we have really, really high engagement, and people just keep playing these games. And the stats behind usage of Dash on iPhone is really surprising. I'm just going to share it with you right now. Again, we're 84% female, and we have about 300,000 average DAU. Again, not under the freemium model, this is the premium model. Over 1 million sessions a day, 3 million MAU, and this is the one I'm most proud of, 65% 30-day retention. So month over month, people just keep playing these games. And then 20-minute average session length. So this is the one that blew me away, because I'm like, really? 20 minutes average session length? When we talk to our consumers, we talk to them how they're playing these games on their phone, it's not like play at the bus stop, it's not play in the waiting room. It's sit down, it's me time, it's replacing People magazine. It's actually, I'm going to take 30, 40 minutes an hour and play games on my mobile device. And this is a very different behavior pattern than what you saw on the traditional feature phones. Great user ratings, average of 5 stars for Diner Dash. About 90% of our gamers have rated Diner Dash 5 stars in the App Store, so obviously big fans. And then we do a lot of surveys. We actually go out and, in addition to the larger market segment surveys that we've done with Megget Associates, we also go and we do a lot of email surveys of our customer base and just talk to them about their gaming habits. And when we did a recent survey of our Dash audience on iOS, and we asked the question, how often do you play games on your mobile phone? 70% of them said every day, which I think, in terms of engagement, is certainly something to be happy about. All right, so enough chest thumping. Let's talk about how we did it. So underlying all of what we do is the technology. And for those of you that have known PlayFirst for a while, you know that the heart of our technology initiatives is the Playground SDK. And we've spent now basically over 30 months bringing Playground to mobile. And we have it very well optimized for iOS, and we have it now up and running on Android, and you'll be seeing some Android products from us in the future. And because every single game that we've ever made is made on the same technology platform, it allows us to come to market very quickly with existing games on new platforms. But it also gives us very sort of robust, deep tools that are well tested. I mean, probably most of you in this room who are developers have either looked at or worked with Playground at some point. It's very commonly used. And the piece that we've added to it for mobile is a big back-end side of it, which wasn't really necessary in the casual PC Mac download space. But now with these live games, operating them, and certainly with the move to freemium, a big part of our recent initiatives has been adding the back-end services to the underlying technology. Now, another really important thing about having a common technology framework, and if you don't, this is going to hurt you, is when Apple says, hey, it's iOS 5, or hey, it's this shiny new device, and you have like 4 days in which to get all of your games updated and ready to run on it, and you have all these disparate code bases, it's going to be very, very difficult. It's going to be very difficult to embrace something like Game Center, which is obviously a huge strategic initiative for Apple. So having all your games aligned around a single technology base will make you we got to be very quick to market and react to market changes and new platform opportunities. So on top of that, I mentioned the importance of native games. So really start from the device and building outwards. No matter how amazing you think your game is that you've made for another platform, and no matter how great you think it's going to run on a touchscreen interface, you really have to start from that device. And so we've made a ton of enhancements and improvements and changes and tweaks to our Dash games to react to everything from screen size to multi-touch to gestures to interactions. And so the Dash games that you play on iPhone today are very different than the ones that the version that you might have played on the PC Mac download a few years ago. Then we obviously launch, we have light products and we have paid products, and we focus a lot on that conversion and that upsell. A lot of people like to try before they buy, and so that's a big part of what we do as well. And then analytics, you don't have to be over in the freemium column to be very analytics centric and very analytics focused, and we spend a lot of time reviewing even just level completion. Where are people dropping out of the game? I mean, it's just a very fundamental thing that you should be looking at, but understanding where there potentially are blockers and where people are getting frustrated and dropping out of your game is just a basic thing. You don't have to be freemium to be doing that stuff. So, and then we add a monetization layer on top of these games. And on our light versions, I put the iAd icon up here as a shout out to Apple, but we're experimenting with all sorts of different advertising opportunities. Mobile advertising is obviously going to be huge going forward. And then for in-app purchase, what we're doing is if you look at our Dash games, we're actually selling people additional virtual goods within a paid product. So we start with a $2.10 ARPU, and then we go up from there. And we're selling people venues, additional restaurants. These are seasonal. They can't wait a spooky one for Halloween. We're layering in, power-ups, upgrades, things that they can buy within the game. And again, this is a really effective strategy, and we're seeing a very meaningful percentage of our revenue, even with a hit premium franchise, is now coming from the in-app purchase of these virtual goods. And it sets the expectation with the consumer as well that there's more stuff coming. Don't delete the application, even if you're done with the final level in the game. There's more stuff coming, and that's a very important mindset to put your consumer in so that they know that it's basically a relationship that you've built with them. It's not something where they're just finished with your product and they're moving on to the App Store to go find something new. They're going to keep coming back. And then finally, a really, really important part of building this franchise to what it is today is the fact that we have very strong distribution. And I mentioned those MAUs, 3 million MAUs, 16 million installs. On top of all of our games, if you go and look at them, what you'll see is the Play First Promotion Network. And this is a really powerful, metrics-driven, very dynamic cross-promotion system, which allows us to tell our existing users about our new products, to tell our existing users about new features and existing products they might already have. And then a big part of what we do as well in our games is we collect emails, and we form that direct customer relationship. If you're frustrated by the fact that you can't reply to the user reviews in the App Store, ask people for their email. And when you get it, you can then have a direct dialogue with them, and you can actually be doing direct marketing with them. And again, this is 6 years of experience of digital distribution publishing that Play First brings to this. But it's something that's very, very effective. Once you've got a user and they're playing your game and they like it, you are such a great source of information for them as to what they should be playing next versus diving into the App Store, fingers crossed that they find something that they like. Here's some data from the Play First Promotion Network. Our little sort of house ad, if you will, click-through banner. We see 6% click-through on this. So 6% of everyone that comes into our games actually clicks on this to see what we're telling them about. We see 2% of people open up our More Games tab, and then once they're in there, we see anywhere from 20 to 30% of people actually click through into the App Store. And then our most powerful tool are actually these full screen ads that we run cross-promoting our other games, and we'll do these in line with people playing through the game. 31% click-through. Again, going back to the 3 million MAU, we can drive a lot of users to the App Store. It's not uncommon for us to send 2 million clicks a month into the App Store, people looking for our content to install stuff that we've referred to them. All right, so moving forward, what's next? Obviously, there's going to be a ton of people that are going to start playing games for the first time, and so those are a huge opportunity. I think this is a really encouraging side. There's still 45% of people who say that they will not be playing games. I don't know what's wrong with them, but they hopefully they will convert. But this is, again, a very encouraging slide because it means that even for people who have these devices, they're not yet playing. They plan on starting, and they've heard about it. Their friend has a game that they think is kind of cool, or they've heard about. Again, a huge opportunity for growth. And then when we talk about the rise of popularity of free games, I think what we've got going on is we've got people on the left side of this chart that you're looking at. There's just 52% of people have just never downloaded a paid game. They've got it in their mind that they're not going to pay for that initial download, and that's fine. And I think that there's a good group of people there who we should go after with freemium content. If you look over on the right-hand side of the column, you could see that people who are downloading free games, which is those 2 yellow bars, they're downloading a lot of them. So 5, 10, 15, 20. They're going through these apps pretty quickly. Now, that's great if you're looking for a high number of free installs, but that's a little risky if you're looking at a consumer who burns through apps 2 or 3 a week. And so, if you're going to go play in that column, you got to be really sure that you've got a very sticky game that's going to retain people, or you're going to be, one of those 5, 10, 20 apps that they downloaded, and you're going to be the one that they might not be playing. So, certainly very encouraging numbers, though, around free. And the most encouraging is this chart, which again came from the research that we did. So, we're down to a pretty small sample size here, because we're talking about people who have smartphones, people who play games, and people who have purchased a digital or virtual good within a smartphone game. Not a huge sample size, but I think for those of you that have played in the freemium column, this won't be a surprise to you. For some of you who haven't, it will be. On average, they spent $67 last year in virtual goods within a smartphone game. And good luck getting someone to pay $67 for the initial download. So I think what you see here when you're on the freemium side is you have a very small group of users who, if you can get them to the point of monetizing within your game, will monetize very, very well, and they will be very passionate about your product, and they will invest heavily in it if you offer them a good value proposition. So of note, this same question was asked last year, and the number was basically $40, so we're up $25 over last year. We're going to ask the same question next year. I'm sure it's going to be even higher. I'm sure the percentages are going to be even greater. So obviously a huge trend here in terms of the power of freemium. So what's PlayFirst doing about it? Well, we're going to diversify. We're going to actually have a diversified business strategy, which I think is a good way to go. We're going to continue to do well with our premium games, and then we're going to have freemium games as well. So Egg vs. Chicken is now a freemium game. When we pivoted it to free, we did 1.5 million downloads in 10 days. So you can get very, very good scale very, very quickly. It went up to be the top 5 free game in a lot of countries, US, China, major markets. And then once you've got that huge, once you have a couple 100,000 DAU, and you can get your ARPU to be performing well, you can do very well. We've also released a zoo game, and I think it's a top 200 grossing game for the past 2 weeks. You can go see it in the charts. It's just barely dipping in along the top 200, but we kind of soft launched it, and we're scaling the user base pretty slowly, but we're very encouraged by the ARPU numbers, and we'll continue to invest in that product and improve it going forward, and I think you'll probably see it up in the top 50, top 25 pretty soon as we scale our user base. And then finally, we're announcing a launch of Dinertown Pets, which is where you're going to be basically having a pet store within Dinertown, launching worldwide August 4th, already live in Canada in a beta, and the ARPU numbers are just fantastic. So you can see here, PlayFirst is certainly not going to sit idly by and watch the fast lane of freemium overpass it. We're very much in it. We've got products live in the market right now. And what's great about this is we're taking all of those learnings from games as a service, live teams, how to basically monetize through in-app purchase that we've established really well on the Dash franchise. I'm bringing them over, and they're working very well. So that is the presentation. I'll take a few questions. Sorry, I think the mic wasn't working. I think your question was free app, acquiring new users from... Oh, I see. So like people who come into the light version of a Dash game and then move over to the paid version. So again, it depends on the game, but we will convert anywhere from 8 to 12% of our light users to paying users. And I think that's a great metric, certainly for those of you that have dealt with conversion percentages on the PC Mac download space for a lot of years. Those numbers are much better. And I think the trick there is just offer them a really great initial experience, and you'll get them to convert right over. It's not usually, they don't usually play it like 17 times and then convert. They get in, they play it a few times, they like it, and then they move over. Other questions? There's one there at the back. I think it went. You can just yell. Yeah.
Do you have a concept or any data on how many people are repurchasing the same game on mobile, or if these are brand new customers who've never played that game?
I think it's a mix. I mean, obviously, we have a huge existing loyal fan base, and they come in predisposed to loving the game. And I think that they're certainly they are transitioning their habits, and they haven't abandoned the PC Mac platform, but they're certainly sort of supplementing it with their smartphone gaming experience. I don't know specifically the percentage of people that are like new, because it's very difficult to track an iOS customer against a customer that we sold something to on a web portal. But my sense is that there are people who are discovering Dash for the first time and loving it. We certainly get a lot of feedback along those lines, but I don't have that percentage. Sorry. All right. One last plug. We've got a. Oh wait, no. One last question.
I was listening to your piece on trials there. Could you have trials become more or less effective over time? Have you seen the light version on iOS become something you have seen more people coming over from it, or less people coming over for it? Pretty straightforward.
Well, I think what you've got on iOS is you've actually got people who are hanging out in the paid column and people who are hanging out in the free column. And so I don't think people go into the free column necessarily looking for something to convert them to a paid version, but they see it in there, and they check it out and they try it. So I think we have seen an increase, I think just as free apps have grown in popularity in the volume of installs of our light versions. And I think, but in terms of the overall percentage of our users that are coming from those versions, it's about the same. Like we're not really seeing like the converted users are not a meaningful delta over what they were a year ago. One more right there.
We've had an application that's just been turned away from Apple based on the light principle.
Okay.
So they're slowly moving away from us actually creating light applications in favor of their in-app purchases.
Yep.
How is Play City approaching that in terms of their free business model?
Sure. So I understand what you're saying, which is that instead of having two separate apps, one that's a light and one that's a paid, that you actually upsell people within the app through an app purchase. We're going to be experimenting with that moving forward and looking at that, how that impacts our conversion percentages. So I think it could, we don't have any data around it yet, but I think it could be a very valid way of upselling a user using in-app purchase. Then they don't have to go install the other app. All right, I think that's it. We have a booth over at the conference center. If you want to come talk to us about the promotion network or about Playground SDK, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks very much.